Hello guys and welcome to the Symfony API platform with React.js full stack masterclass course. So now let's take a look at the course content and the course outline so you will see what you can learn inside this course, how to make the most out of it and where to find certain things that you might need. So first we start with the course introduction, which is what you are watching right now, and then we'll go to getting started, which is how to set up your environment, like installing PHP to your system, whether that is Windows or Mac. And also I will show you all the tools that will be useful for this course, like the code editor, the API testing or the database management tools. Next, we have a modern PHP 7 introduction, which is optional. So you don't really have to watch this because it's not about API platform, it is about all the modern parts of the PHP. So we'll go back through the namespaces, classes, interfaces, inheritance, and things that are in PHP long enough, but you might not have a chance to work with them yet, so you might refresh your memory. And then we'll go to the modern features of the PHP 7.0 and newer, which is the typed arguments, function return types, and we'll also cover anonymous functions, the reflection API, and some of the software development best practices like the dependency injection, the service container, and we'll also talk about annotations, since they are not part of the PHP language itself, but they are widely used in modern PHP framework. It's very useful to understand how they work and what you can do with them. So in the API platform course itself, we won't be writing or creating own annotations. We'll be just using the existing annotations provided with Symfony and API platform. But by watching these lectures, you might understand how they work and how they integrate with the PHP. So some of those lectures are pretty complicated, but don't worry, you have the code to download. So those are the links that you can download the lectures before we start a particular lecture, and then there's the after version, so you can see how the code changed. And also those are the links to the GitHub. So all of this code is available publicly on the GitHub, so you can browse through all these individual lectures and see how this changed. So you will see the code after each individual lecture here. We will cover the basics of the Symfony framework itself, so the controllers, the routing. We'll go then to the basics of the databases, the Doctrine ORM, and then we dive straight into the API platform. So there's lots of sections about the API platform and how to use it with Symfony. So there's the introduction, we'll talk about the operations, user authentication, tokens, authorization, validation, serialization. So everything you will need inside your API, even uploading files, filtering, sorting, and then we'll go through error handling, logging, we'll set up an admin panel, and finally we'll see how we can unit test our code and then how to functionally test our code. Last but probably the biggest section of this course, the biggest alone section, is the Redux React app. So we'll be writing a React application from scratch and explaining everything along the way. We'll also show videos of how to install Node and NPM on both Windows and Mac. So you can see there's lots of lectures, so I'm pretty certain you'll be sure how to use the API that you've just created with a React application. Now let's go to one of the videos and see how you can get most of this course. So immediately when you will go inside a lecture, you see that sometimes there are resources available. So if you will click this button, you can either download some of the lectures which were provided for this course, or there is a link to the GitHub where you can check this code. So let's close that now, and let's see the buttons on the bottom. So if you think I'm talking too fast, you can slow me down. You can, for example, watch with half the speed, or if you think I'm talking too slow, you can speed me up, so even like 2 times faster. So that depends on you. Then we have the browse Q&A, so that's a very important thing, guys. If you have any question regarding the lecture you're actually watching, you can press this button and this window with questions will pop up, and then you can either read all the questions that were previously asked about this lecture. You can ask your own questions, so I highly recommend to ask questions here, because I will immediately see to what lecture this question is relating to, and that would be much easier for me to answer your questions. Now, I would ask you to provide the version of the system you are using, or the system in general you are using, whether it is Windows, Mac or Ubuntu, and also the PHP version, and if you will, that you will provide the exact time in this particular lecture that you have a problem with, because to be honest, when we have more than 200 lectures, it's pretty hard to remember what I was saying in each individual lecture. So if you guys can do that for me, I'd ask you to just provide the time on which you have the particular problem. But first, be sure to check if there isn't a question already asked for the problem you might be having. And also, when you have questions about things that are not covered inside this course and you would like to ask how to do a certain thing, I invite you to browse the internet, to search in Google, to check the Stack Overflow, which is a great platform. So you can go to stackoverflow.com, and then you have a lot of questions already asked and already answered. So it's the simplest way you can find answers to your questions, and sometimes it's even enough to write a question to the Google and add a Stack Overflow to it, and you will immediately get answers for all of your questions you might be having. Now, there are a couple more options when you are watching the lecture. So first, there is this continue button in the right bottom part of the screen. So you can skip a lecture, you can go immediately to the next one. There is also the volume knob, so you can control how loud I'm speaking, so either louder or more silent. So depends on your preference. And also there is the settings button, so you can change the quality of the video you are watching. So if you think that the quality is too low, maybe you just have the lower quality change, and it is adaptive. So Udemy is trying to adapt it to your internet connection speed. So if you are guys on the slower, you might choose the lower resolution, or the highest one if you have a faster connections. So mind that this is adaptive. If you see the screen is blurry, try to change the quality. Also, I'd like to tell you that the whole course is recorded in Full HD, but currently Udemy only allows the 720p, and I have no control over that. They only enable Full HD for certain courses that they choose. So sorry for that, guys, but I can't do anything about that. Now there is also an autoplay button, so you can watch these videos continually. But if you want to control how you watch them, then you can disable autoplay. It just works the way YouTube works, so you can use this button to autoplay or not. And also this button on the left, which is left of the current lecture name, allows you to browse through whole course, so you can watch any video you need. And also when you see this tick on the end of the lecture, this just signals the lecture that you've already finished. So it will be ticked only when you will watch the lecture to the very end.